So back in March, we had what was supposed to be one of the biggest launches of the year, Assassin's Creed Shadows. And before we deep dive into the numbers and the backlash or what this can mean for Ubisoft going forward, I just want to be clear about one thing. I was rooting for this game to be successful. Seriously. Even after what Ubisoft did to XDefiant, I generally believed in that game and I thought it could be huge for the gaming space. I still wanted AC Shadows to succeed. I wanted to believe that they had learned from their mistakes when it came to that game and that they were seriously trying to turn around the company and just become profitable. That they were finally moving all their franchises in the right direction. I wasn't looking for an absolute train wreck and I was not trying to hate on the game. I was hoping for a comeback. And at first, it honestly looked like we were going to get one. When AC Shadows dropped early this year, it launched to what seemed like a lot of solid success. Ubisoft reported having over 3 million players within the first week, and honestly, that's not nothing. That's pretty large. Those aren't rookie numbers. In fact, Ubisoft claimed that it was their most successful AC launch ever. That's a big statement when you consider how massive AC2 was, Black Flag, and even Origins. So at that point, it seemed like Ubisoft finally pulled it off, that all signs pointed towards a huge win. The franchise was back, fans were engaged, and for a moment, it felt like the old Assassin's Creed magic might be returning. But then something changed. Just the other day, Ubisoft held their shareholder meeting for their financial reports, and they released the actual sale numbers of AC Shadows. And let's just say that the tone was very different from what was actually released. The results were not what anyone was expecting. Not the fans, not the analysts, and honestly, I don't think the Ubisoft executives expected this to go as badly as they did. And if we're being honest, it's a little concerning. Now, this is where things start to get a little confusing and honestly a little sketchy as well. According to the information released from Ubisoft in their shareholder meeting, AC Shadows only sold 2.4 million copies. And this number is across all platforms. That's it, only 2.4 million. And for a game that was reportedly the most successful AC game ever, that number raised a lot of eyebrows when I read it. Twitter does what Twitter will always do best. They investigated and they started to find a lot of information. Leading up to the launch, the game was already swimming in a lot of controversy. There were heated debates over the character choices, setting, historical accuracy, you name it, people were talking about it. Then there were the delays, multiple delays. In fact, a lot of people thought that this would hurt the launch of the game and overall hurt consumer confidence. So honestly, it wasn't exactly a smooth sailing during the promo cycle of this game. And sure, those factors could absolutely impact the sales. And here's where the numbers just don't line up. Because before the shareholder call, during the launch week of this game, Ubisoft publicly reported, and you'll see it here on the screen, that AC Shadows had over 3 million players in its first week. Not a month, a week. That was the number that they celebrated. That was the headline they ran with. So how do we go from 3 million players in 1 week to 2.4 million units sold in total? Honestly, something is not adding up. These numbers can't both be true unless we start splitting hairs over what sold and what played actually mean. And that's exactly what's happening here. The reality is, Ubisoft likely wasn't referring to sales when they hyped up the 3 million figure on week 1. They were referring to players, people who actually just went on to the game, launched it, and played it for a couple of minutes. Whether they bought it full price or grabbed it at a deep discount, or most importantly, they played it to Ubisoft Plus or Game Pass, their subscription services, that changes the entire narrative of this figure. Because while the player count might look impressive, the actual sales revenue, where most companies make their money, that's a complete different story. The Ubisoft Plus launcher definitely boosted a lot of the player numbers, especially since they dangled exclusive in-game rewards for playing through that subscription service. It was a clever marketing move and one that probably helped the game gain traction in the short term, but from a financial standpoint, it's hard to see AC Shadows even came close to being profitable if this is where a large chunk of their players came from. And let's not forget that subscription services bring in a fraction of the revenue that a $70 game sale does. So even if you get someone to subscribe for a month to play this game, you only get around $10 to $15 probably for each player who ends up playing the game. And that's nowhere near the financial impact of someone buying the full game outright. So multiply that by millions of players and the math just doesn't add up for the long-term profitability of this title. But despite this confusion, despite the conflicting figures, and despite the questions that I'm pretty sure all of you guys have, including myself, the investment world responded a little bit differently. After the private earnings call, the investment banks did end up slashing the forecast for Ubisoft, saying that the company's recent success of AC Shadows can help propel the company forward. With this, they decided to slash it down from $13 European down to $12 European. And that's not a great forecast for the company, but it shows that although they do lack confidence in them making more money, they do see AC Shadows as a success. And that right there just kind of shows the disconnect between the public and the financial narratives here. However, the market had other plans. When the market went live today on May 15th, Ubisoft stock absolutely plummeted. As I'm talking right now, the stock is down almost 15% in a single day, on a day where the market is up almost 2%. That's a major hit. And not just because of the numbers, but because of what this suggests. Investor confidence in Ubisoft is starting to slip fast. And it's hard to blame them. Between the fuzzy sales data, the underwhelming launch figures, and the broader uncertainty around the company's direction in total, there's a lot to be skeptical about right now when it comes to Ubisoft. And again, I want everyone to understand that I wanted this game to win. I wanted this to be a win for the Assassin's Creed franchise and for Ubisoft in total. I was pulling for this game, but it's hard to ignore what's happening here in the larger scale. It feels like a lot of smoke and mirrors are being thrown around here when it comes to this launch title. And when you ship that away, what are you really left with? Because this isn't just about Assassin's Creed at this point. The news around Assassin's Creed Shadows honestly has not been great. That much is 100% clear. But I do think the game was not a complete flop. It doesn't look like it tanked in the traditional sense because a lot of people did play this game. It's not another Forspoken or Redfall, but what we might be seeing is something a bit more subtle, a little accounting magic to make the game seem a lot more successful than it actually was. You boost the player count with Ubisoft Plus, frame that as success, and you quietly sidestep the actual sales figures to make it look a little bit more profitable in the long run. Still, for all the confusion around the numbers and the obvious smoke and mirrors, the fact remains. Ubisoft saw something in those early metrics that gave them a tremendous amount of confidence in this franchise. Enough confidence to completely triple, double down, however you want to say it, on this franchise. They're going all in on Assassin's Creed. They're going to be launching mobile games, VR experiences, rumored spinoffs of the series, shows, movies, etc. This is the brand that they're betting the entirety of the company on, and that says a lot going forward. Now, that could mean one of two things. Either Ubisoft genuinely believes that they've recaptured the magic of Assassin's Creed, that Shadows was a step in the right direction and the data backs up that information, or they've just completely lost the plot when it comes to gamers. And if it's the latter, we could be watching one of the last major acts of a publisher that's been out of touch with this community for years now. And honestly, the truth is somewhere probably in between. Assassin's Creed Shadows may not have saved Ubisoft, but it also didn't kill them either. What it did is shine a spotlight on just how fragile these massive AAA releases have become and how quick the conversation shifts from record-breaking to financial disappointment in just a matter of weeks. So where do we go from here? That's the real question for Ubisoft and for fans, because if this is what success looks like now, then maybe it's time we start redefining what success actually means when it comes to gaming.